Well, we're in. This year's real live nativity. I got us the last two parts.
Excellent. Who are we playing?
Well, I'm one of the kings. I get a crown, and I get to carry the myrrh.
Wow, great. How about me?
Well, think about this. You get to be the star. I mean, not the Bethlehem star. I mean the star of the show. You were, baby Jesus. But I did order some extra large swaddling.
It's a Christmas miracle. You're just like the baby Jesus.
Dear Lord, baby Jesus, or as our brothers to the south call you, Jesus.
The following podcast contains graphic descriptions of international celebrating and global merrymaking. It may not be suitable for angry or unhappy audience members. Listener discretion is advised. You've been warned.
Have you ever seen any of those foreign films? I don't like them.
Some are born great, others achieve greatness, and some watch Christmas movies.
We are the wild and crazy guys.
Well, they're both festive, aren't they?
Joyeux Noel!
And we are the Festive Foreign Film Fans. Hey, Xinyan Hao, Mark.
You okay? What's going on over there?
It's Happy Lunar New Year.
Oh,
Woo! That's why I'm sitting in this pile of fried rice. I bet you didn't even realize that Chinese New Year, it just ended a week ago.
I did not know that. I totally missed it.
But Chinese New Year, it began January 29th, but the celebration goes 16 days.
That is a celebration.
It is a celebration.
You know, I like this.
Yeah, I know.
Right? We celebrate New Year's, and sometimes it's so cold. The next day, all we do is we stay in the house, build a fire, and watch football.
Yeah,
Which isn't that bad.
I know, because honestly, I think usually I'm on the floor nursing hangover watching football. So I'm like, yeah, that's okay. The funny thing is though, I don't think I'd trade it for having to live at work, because remember, Chinese New Year's, it's the one time that people that are living in their workplaces go home. It's the largest migration in the world at one time. That's when they all go. I know. You're going to have a billion people, billion plus now in a country. That's what's going to happen.
They work all those other weeks and they get 2 weeks off and they all leave and come back. I mean,
so they're like, let's make the most of this.
Yeah. So maybe in retrospect, I'm good where I'm at.
The other funny thing, and we see this a lot with some of the countries that we look at, especially that are older than the U.S., they have these interesting stories around their holidays that we don't necessarily have.
Right.
I mean, we have some things like George Washington cutting down the cherry tree or Paul Bunyan or things like that. But here, so the Chinese myth is that there was a monster called Nian, and it was a terrifying beast with sharp teeth and horns, and it lived deep in the sea, but it would come out on every New Year's Eve. Now, I don't know how it knew when it was New Year's Eve, but it knew, and it would come out.
It had a calendar, Bob.
Yes. And the people would have to hide. But then there was this one little boy who learned, Nian, he doesn't like loud noises, and he doesn't like the color red. So what he did is he hung all these red decorations, and he set off a bunch of fireworks. And what did it do? It scared the monster away. And then the people said, hey, that's so great. We're going to celebrate by setting off a bunch of fireworks. So now that's part of their festival. They let off a bunch of fireworks, and supposedly it's supposed to scare off the monsters or bad luck.
And you do see all the fireworks and the big dragons and stuff, but now we know a little bit more behind what they're actually trying to do.
Now that you say that, I hadn't thought of it. You see the dragon, and they have firecrackers going off, boom, 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 right there. Yeah, that's true. And they also have some fun traditions, like you're not allowed to shower on New Year's Day because that would wash away the good luck. You can't sweep or throw out the garbage, I guess probably because you're going to be sweeping away the good luck. You're not supposed to get your hair cut or use sharp things, argue or swear, break things or say any unlucky words during the New Year celebration. So don't say
Wow.
13.
Wow. I'm okay with everything but the swearing piece. I don't think I could go 16 days without swearing.
Especially when you're locked in with your family.
Oh,
Because that's the
Lord.
other thing. You have to be in the first 5 days, you're supposed to stay home and not go out.
I love my family, I guess.
What's funny is they have a great story, but they also got rules around their holiday too.
Very strict.
But Mark, here's our challenge for tonight.
Okay.
Here's our test, our
Okay.
quiz. So this is the year of the snake.
Oh.
Now I thought, okay, 2025 year of the snake. I was thinking, are we villainous then?
Right.
Are we like doing bad things? Or no. The snake is considered to be wise, strategic, and mysterious, which is how
Ooh.
the year is supposed to be defined. So my question to you is, what wise, strategic, and mysterious things do you see on the horizon for 2025? Or what is going to happen that's strategic or wise or mysterious that will make this the year of the snake?
Okay, so strategic, that's probably the easiest. 'Cause
Okay.
I'm not very mysterious. Somebody would ask, like, what is something someone doesn't know about you? And I was like, I don't know. I think I've told everybody everything.
I hang it all out
Yeah,
here.
it's just but strategic. This year, what I'm working on is I just got recertified in CPR.
Really?
I want to sort of go back and get recertified in some of the first aid and training that I've had over the years.
Mhm.
I don't know why I wanted to. It just felt like I should, right? I'm traveling more and have more chances to interact with people. And I really liked taking that type of thing. So I think the mysterious thing I'm doing, potentially mysterious, is over the last couple of years, including this past Christmas, our kids have given us these books to fill out that is about our life, my life, Sue's life. Filling that out, I'm actually discovering, like, I don't know if I ever told the kids this story. I don't know if I ever shared with other people. Like, based on the questions, it's made me think about, and a couple times, Sue, I'm like, Sue, do you remember when? Or she'll say, do you remember when you did this? And I'll be like, totally forgot. So the mysterious part of me would be, I may unearth things about myself that I've either forgot or have suppressed.
You know what is funny, though? I think about this podcast in a small way, exactly the same way. It brings up things between both of us that I know there's stories you never shared with me, but there's been a couple of times that I've said things I go, I don't even know. And Mary Ellen has known me a long time, and I'd be like, I don't even know if I ever shared that with her. But there was one time she listened to the show and she's like, what are you talking about?
What about you? What wise, strategic, and mysterious thing do you have planned, Mr. Baker?
I mean, strategic wise, I think changing my job,
Right.
And it's a great opportunity working with people that I've worked with before, that we have really a chance to grow it, expand it. So those are exciting things. But then I'm like, well, that's work.
Right.
You know, the one thing I did think, I'm like, going back to last show, maybe, and this will be strategic, maybe not so wise, but mysterious, I may reach out to one of those cruise type ships and go, can we do can we do a Festive Foreign Film Fan? Just to see what a response would be. We're clearly not Hallmark or even the guys that do the Hallmark podcast, but I've known people that have gone on Viking cruises and they had a professor from a university, and I'm like, hey, what about us?
What if we did one of the Christmas market cruises?
I know. So, Mark, that'll be my mysterious, strategic decision.
I like that. And then maybe they'll let me steer the ship.
Sit in the captain's lap. Ooh. We better move on to trivia before we get into trouble.
Yep.
If you recall, in our last episode, when we were talking about Iraq, when we visited Iraq, there was that 5,000-year-old tablet that was found in the Sumerian city of Umma. And we asked, what did that ancient tablet turn out to be? And Mark, this is trivia that's right up our alley. Mark, it was a stone tablet that turned out to be a beer receipt. It records a purchase of the best beer from a brewer at around the year they place it is 2050 BC. So, Mark, I don't know if we have any Iraqi blood or these were our ancestors, but they were out buying some pretty good beer. And if someone knew the answer to that, not only are we going to get him a sticker, but I think we ought to find him some of that 4,000-year-old Alula beer from Iraq.
I agree. You know what? And as long as you take the first sip, Bob, I'll try it too.
Yeah. We have quite a good sticker selection. So even if you've won before, please try again. You put the beer from Iraq aside. Now we're going to Indonesia for a complicated movie here about religious diversity and struggling with faith.
Want to watch a Christmas movie?
Christmas movies are our bread and butter.
We eat Chinese food and watch Christmas movies.
I heard it's the best Christmas movie since Home Alone.
Tonight's movie, first I want to talk about the actors, and then I'm going to try to figure out how to explain the movie, because in the same way that you say like a Love Actually has several different storylines happening at once, they're usually the people are interconnected. Right. An event ties them all together. Right. It's true in this movie as well. The name of our movie actually is Question Mark. That is the name. You will see it written as a question mark. The word question mark, or Tanda Tanya. It's from 2011 in Indonesia. Of the actors, first we have Anhita, who plays Rika. Anhita's real name is Anhita Wibisono. She's an Indonesian model and actress, and she entered the modeling industry in 1997 when a friend sent her picture to Femina magazine to compete in its model search program. So she didn't even send it in. Oh my gosh. Her friend did, and she wins. So then from there, she made her first feature film debut in 2002. So she's just discovered in 97. She's in movies by 2002. FHM published pictures of her in skimpy clothing, which didn't go over well in Indonesia. Great. She did receive a Citra Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress at the 2011 Indonesian Film Festival for her role in this film.
Not surprising.
Right.
She's phenomenal.
Yep. And there's several, we could call all of them out. Surya, he's played by August Concoro, initially intended to be a sculptor. Again, someone that just kind of backs into acting, and he majored in it at the Jakarta Art Institute. However, after hearing a sermon about Islam's view of the art of sculpting, he decided to become an actor. I took that to mean that they frown on sculpture, although I would think,
I don't know.
You would think acting wouldn't be that held up that well either. But he started his career in the early 1990s with soap opera.
There you go.
Better than sculpting, though.
Better than sculpting.
And made his feature film debut several years later. He also received a Citra Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor at the 2011 Indonesian Film Festival. And then we have Reza Rahadian. He's plays Sola. Reza is not only an Indonesian actor, but he's a model, a singer, and a director as well. He said that it's his mother's love for film that influenced him as a youth. He received an award for models. Even though he had never been a professional model, he gets an award for being an outstanding model from this magazine called Annika. Got a lot of attention. Then he was cast in soap operas, and then he made his film debut in 2007 in horror films. And then he did a bunch of horror films, said, I don't want to do horror anymore, jumped over, and his first critically acclaimed drama film was in 2009, and he's in 2011. I thought about how to describe this film, and basically what I will say is the central thing that ties all the people together is a Chinese food restaurant that is run in Indonesia, and it is owned by Chinese Indonesians who, they're a minority, they're discriminated against. Right. So Tan and his wife own the restaurant. They have a son named Heng, and they are Buddhists. When the story opens, the movie opens, you see some scenes in a church, you see some scenes, they're praying in their Buddhist temple, and then you see some scenes in a mosque. So the owners of the restaurant are Buddhists. They have a number of Muslim workers, as well as most of the people who come there are Muslim as well, because it's a Muslim majority country. They serve pork, but Tan, the father, has separate utensils, separate dishes, separate bowls to cook the food in, pots and pans, all separate. And not only that, he also lets his workers, because they pray during the day, they have different times they need to pray, and he lets them pray. And it seems very friendly, amicable. Right. They really like him. They call him sir. He is very generous to them, or nice to them. I don't know generous, but he's very nice to them. And then there is a woman who, she was Muslim. Oh, this is Rika. She's Muslim. So her husband was cheating on her, and she divorced her husband, and she decided to convert to Catholicism. So she's going through the struggle of converting to Catholicism. Her son is still a Muslim and studying, studying the Quran, and he's struggling with neighbors are talking about her. They say she can't go into the mosque. So there's a lot of peer pressure, gossip going on about her. Yep.
And a little bit of a conflict between her and her son. Right? Yep. He's a little confused why she's doing that. And he's getting, I wouldn't say bullied, but like you said, getting a lot of questions of him about your mother, right? Which would be hard for a young kid to.
And it is. And you can see him, he's acting out and being not mean to her and things. So I would say that the three principal stories are Tan and his son Heng, who doesn't participate in the restaurant. He leaves. His dad keeps trying to show him, hey, you're going to take over this restaurant. You need to learn it. And he's not doing it. There's a woman whose name is Manak. She's a waitress at the restaurant, and she's married to Sulla. And their issues are she has a job, Sulla does not. And it's bringing him down. He wants her to respect him. In fact, he's saying, you should divorce me. You need a better man. And she really cares for him. And this is really upsetting to her. And then the third, we talked about Rika and her conversion, but she also is friendly with Syria, who's actor, but he's been doing it since 10 years, and he's only getting extra parts. And then we see one scene where he says an extra, and he messes that up, and they got to fire him from that.
Exactly.
The story starts out, in the first couple scenes, we see a priest getting stabbed,
right?
And it's like, whoa! It gets a lot of coverage. And the one thing that's interesting, they do show a clip of the mayor saying, oh, this wasn't religious. This was kind of a random act. It's not a religious thing. And you clearly see there's some issues we have the three different faiths all living together. And there is some pressure there and hostility, say.
Right.
But for the most part, they're getting along. But, we do see this instance with the priest getting stabbed. And then we see Abin having the problems with his mom converting. So as the story goes on, Rika, we see her, she runs a bookstore. We get a lot of insight into her going through the process. She's going to get baptized.
Right.
And they're asking questions like, what do you see God as?
Right.
And struggling with this, not only I think she feels like this is something she wants to do, but she questions whether she should do because of what's happening with Abi.
You have also surrounding the violence and stuff. You saw Han, who's called names on the street when he's walking around. So the environment that they're in is mostly congenial. However, every once in a while, there's still I feel like there's this cloud of tension.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Town. It's kind of like, I hate to say a pressure cooker because you don't feel the pressure, but it's there, right? Like you think all it needs is one little spark and things will go off. But for the most part, everyone, you see them going in there friendly and they say hi and everything, but still there is some tension there. And there's also tension in their own lives. Rika's struggling with her son and her conversion. Syria, his career isn't going the way he wanted to. He's disappointed. Sela is so unhappy, and he tries. He goes into the bookstore, and he's like, the previous owner offered me a job. And she's like, well, the previous owner isn't here anymore. It's me. Yeah. And for someone who so desperately wants a job, he's very arrogant. Right. And I was thinking, I didn't know if it was maybe the male role in the society that he kind of was like, you got to give me the job. He didn't do anything endearing at all to get the job.
Nothing at all. So it was only a one-way conversation, which again, going back to Rika, she's divorced, she's converting, and she's starting to run a bookstore.
there's a comment made, you should just sell Islamic books and you do really well. She sells a variety of books. Now, I think there were Islamic books in there, but there's a bunch of other books in there. So again, in some ways, she's a pariah. And then we find out, to add to all this complexity, Hang, the son of Tom, we find out Manuk and Hang used to have a relationship.
Right.
And so Hang we learn his anger in a lot of ways is because she broke up with him because of his religion. And then also there's this tension because she's with Salah doesn't have a job. As the story moves on, what we find is that Rika convinces Syria to, and this I found interesting, they have an Easter play,
right?
And they needed someone, they needed people in it. They pay for people to be in their play, which I that was surprising to me.
Right.
But she says, hey, you should try out for this play. Really, you're looking for work. And he actually goes to the elder at the mosque.
Right.
Can I even go in? And it was really great to see what the elder was like. Yes, you can go in there. It's just don't replace Allah.
Right.
Go with your heart. You listen to your heart, but you can still go there, and you could. And he said he could play the role, and he goes and tries out, and guess what role he gets? Jesus. He's Jesus.
Going back to what one thing, I one of the lines I really loved is when they're asking Rika about what's the definition of God, and everybody's up. I mean, her answer ends up being God is all the scared people, is what she said.
Yeah.
And I thought, isn't that interesting?
I actually thought there was a lot of really good conversations about faith and religion.
I do too.
And we'll talk about the 3 quotes at the end too. I thought was
very
great too.
Good. Yep.
So that's what's happening. So Rika convinces Syria. He goes out and tries out. At the same time, Salas observes this militia group and the camaraderie of them, and he's looking at them and he thinks, that's what he wants, right? He wants respect. So he joins, and what's interesting is this is a real group. They promote interreligious tolerance.
They do.
They're the NU Islamic group. So he joins up, and he doesn't even realize when he joins up, I think, what their mission is.
Right.
Because one of the first jobs that he's put on is to guard the church at the Easter presentation. And he's like, why are we doing this? We can't even go in the church. And they're like, yes, you can. And we're doing this because when they bombed the church, they talked about, which was a real incident they described, when they bombed it, that made Muslims look bad.
Right.
When terrorism happens, it hurts us. It makes us look bad. So this group actually is protecting the church from any terrorists. And there were people that are upset, especially since they have a Muslim playing Jesus. In fact, we get some elements of all the films Godfather in this, because when Syria is playing Jesus, it reminds me of the scene in The Godfather when you have the baptism and there's a murder going on. Because what's going on is basically the scene from in the Bible where Jesus is carrying his cross and then he's being crucified. They're showing that at the same time that Hang and Sola get into a fight, and they're like saying things to each other like, oh, you joined this group so you can pretend like you have a job. And he's like, the only reason why you get by is your dad has a restaurant.
Right.
And they start fighting at the same time that the crucifixion is going on. So Hang, we realize what his plan is to get an investor and open his own restaurant. He wants to open his own restaurant. And the investors are like, you got a family restaurant. How can you turn your back on it? We're talking restaurants here. Stay with that restaurant, which he doesn't like. His father was ill at the beginning. He's been ill. You can see him at different points. He has a neck brace on. He lays down. He's telling his wife it's his last year. Then he collapses. And so now they need Hang to come in and run the restaurant. And so it appears, though, for a while they give the impression that things are going smoothly.
Right.
Syria and Rika are kind of developing a relationship. They have this great they go back and forth, and she's helping him with his career. And she gets him, his second job she gets him is to play Santa Claus.
Well, that's right.
And this one is a really touching scene because first off, what I love is she's like, I want you to play Santa Claus. And he's like, you mean Santa Claus or St. Nicholas?
St. Nicholas. Yeah.
And she's like, what's the difference? And he spouts off. He's talking.
Totally
knows exactly what St. Nicholas is. And I love, he says, Americans developed Santa Claus because they have no hero.
That's right. I thought it was a good shot at us. It's fair.
Absolutely. So he playing in, not St. Nicholas, Santa Claus, and he dresses up and he's very jolly, ho, ho, ho. And this boy is sick and in the hospital. And he goes in, he's trying to, and he's really doing a good job to goof with the boy and all that. And the boy, it's clear he's cancer or it's very ill and isn't necessarily responding, but he is in his eyes. But I think he's just so sick.
Right.
And then he comes close to him and I think he was like, what's your wish for Santa? And he's giving him toys. And the boy shows him, because his parents are in the room, and that shows him a note, and basically it says, I want to go, like I want to die because I don't want to trouble my parents anymore. And it's a picture of him flying up in the sky, and not only does it touch you, but it breaks Siri up. He's trying to laugh, he's crying, and then outside he has the boy's robot that he was going to give him, and he is just weeping on the sidewalk. And
it's an incredibly emotional scene, and I thought he did a really good job both in the movie and as an actor sort of handling that scene. That was really good.
I thought so as well. In the summer when it's Eid, and that's the Muslims holiday where they fast for a month, you could imagine as a restaurant, it's challenging. And I've known people that have lived in the Middle East say the same thing. So like in a restaurant here, they have to put curtains up so you can't even see people eating. Now, non-Muslims can eat, but you got to block that they are. And what Town says is you have to respect the people, you like your patrons. So he would give them all 5 days for Eid, take 5 days off. We'll close the restaurant for 5 days. We'll put the curtains up. We'll do all the things so that respecting this is their high holidays. But Tan he collapsed, Hang's running the restaurant, and he now has been told by his investors they're not going to invest. He's stuck with this restaurant, and he also observes Manuk and Sola, and it gets to him. So what he decides during Eid, he rips all the curtains down. He only closes for 1 day. He's going to stay open the rest of the day, and he really upsets the Muslims. And they really find out when the workers are home on Eid and telling their family members, and the family members are like, you have to go back to work tomorrow? So father finds out, runs down the stairs to say, Hang, don't do this. At the same time, a mob comes and they tear up the restaurant.
Beat him,
beat
the father.
Yeah, Hang hides, and he's hiding while his father is trying to stop, and he gets beaten and is on his deathbed. And you see a scene with Hang is really distraught, and his dad makes him a promise, something that you don't know what the promise is before he dies. He thinks he's messed everything up. Sola still feels like he's not getting the respect. His wife doesn't see him in the same way that she should, and that's what he's struggling with. Christmas event. He's inside the church. His commander's looking for him. They said, where's he? He's in the church. Tell him to get out. They come inside to come get him, and he's right about to leave, sees a box on the ground, notices it, goes up, opens it. It's a bomb.
Right.
And so right there, and what I find interesting is he didn't just jump up and run out with it, or he sits and thinks about, and they show flashes of things like when he said, you're supposed to protect the church. I want to be respected. I want people to look up to me, because he knows if he grabs this thing and goes, it's his life.
Right.
But what does he do? He does exactly that. He grabs the bomb and runs out, and he's killed.
He is killed.
And Mark, I think that's based on a true story.
Really?
That actually happened. Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Someone from that NU group, I was looking it up, was protecting the church, saw a bomb, grabbed the bomb, and ran out. Now,
what an act of courage.
Yeah. Sola dies. Tan has died. It's Christmas. Rika opens a book. And the one thing it's right about, and I don't know who this poet is, I don't know what she was reading, but she says, and something along the lines are, all paths are different, but they head in the same direction. That we're looking for the same thing, and we all have the same purpose, and we're never really alone. Our destination is to God. You might think, you're coming through the Catholic way and you're coming through the Muslim way and all, but the path is different, but the direction where we want to go end up is the same way. At the end, Hang changes. He decides to convert to Islam. He reopens the restaurant. Abby completes his studies. Rika's family, because she had converted to Catholicism, she was estranged. They come. And the funny thing, Syria's walking down the street and the guy's like, hey, weren't you a cop on TV last night?
Yeah.
Although when you go through this and you think, oh, the deaths and all that, it would seem somber. And it was actually kind of uplifting at the end. They have a quote from Christianity, a Muslim quote, and a Buddhist quote. And I think the Christian one was from Mark, treat people the way that you want to be treated.
Exactly.
Yes. And they're all about the same,
all about
the
same
thing.
message, right?
Yeah.
Which is interesting,
Yes.
right? If you think about how many people over the centuries have died because of religion,
Yes.
when ultimately the same basic lessons are being taught.
So what do you think? Festive?
This was a tough one.
Yeah.
Been a while, but I'm going to say not festive.
I'm going to say the opposite. The way that they all were grappling with their faith and their commitment to their faith. The question is, what is festive? Were there Christmas lights? Was there a tree? No, the closest thing you got was the nativity play and Santa Claus. However, some of the discussions and the feelings and what people were thinking and expressing, to me, was meaningful and demonstrated faith. And I thought, in the end, festive.
Okay.
And just the self-sacrifice from Sola at the end.
How'd you make you feel watching this movie, Bob?
You know, I would say it's complicated. By, I think, the third time I watched it, I kind of enjoyed it more.
Wow.
I think the first time it was a lot of trying to figure out who's who and the storyline and what was happening. I missed some of the significance just by trying to get the details down. By the third time, I kind of knew the parties, knew what they were, saw more of it. So I would say I was confused.
I'll be honest with you, I was stressed. I just felt like throughout the whole movie, there was this tension that was waiting to explode. And then, of course, the death scene with the little boy or the boy, wishing he would die. I don't know, I just never felt relaxed and I never felt like I'm enjoying this movie. And again, the end is great because there's so many things that happen and they named the market after Solo. But I was very tense and stressed during this whole movie.
You know what? You're right. There's a little band. And whenever things were kind of going well, they would walk by this band and it would be playing a nice song. Every time that happened, I don't trust that. You have a brief reprise of something, but it's going to go bad again. And so I agree with you. It's kind of like, would I watch it in the future? It's not an enjoyable watch. The only way I would is if, sometimes we ourselves will demonize other religions or look down on them. I thought this kind of gave everyone a fair shake, especially since it was made in Indonesia. Clearly, they're Muslim, but I think they kind of were trying to give a really balanced look.
I do too. I mean, to your earlier point about you said you called it festive, I didn't, but I do think there is a redeeming quality of them trying to see the world from different perspectives and embracing it and knowing that there's going to be conflict. But I think I'd have to park this one for a while before I'd watch it again or recommend it. I just think it's one of those movies where if you want to see a different perspective about different religions, this might be a good one to watch.
That's what I was thinking. Would I be a fan and advocate this for a holiday or a Christmas movie? No, but if someone really kind of wanted an exploration or at least get some insight into these different religions and really how they're all working together in one community, I think this was a pretty fair story about it. But again, it's more of a academic view than
I totally agree.
Netflix and a chill.
Totally.
All right, Mark, do you want to know how to say Merry Christmas in Indonesia?
I would love to, Bob.
Okay, so we would say Selamat Hari Natal.
Selamat Hari Natal.
And this one's very straightforward. Selamat in Indonesia is where you would wish someone something good or congratulate them. So Selamat you'll hear is like good morning, so you'd say or Happy New Year, Hari means day, so it'd be like, so we're saying good day. But this is kind of like a lot of languages, unlike in English we'll say yellow car, we say the yellow first, the adjective, and then the noun. Where in a lot of other languages they say car yellow. Right. And that's the same here. So what they're saying is they say happy day. So the Hari and Natal is Christmas. So Natal means Christmas. It was adopted from the Portuguese. So Portuguese who were there. And as you recognize, Natal, that's like the same word that we pronounce as natal. Like prenatal or postnatal, so in English, that's it. So they already had a word for birth, an Indonesian word, which was Kalaharan. So Natal for them is only Christmas. Tell all your Indonesian friends you can say that.
Selamat Hari Natal.
But let's talk about Christmas customs. This is always fun for the different places where we go.
Always.
So Christmas has been celebrated in Indonesia since the arrival of the Portuguese and the Dutch. Christianity spread in Indonesia, but mostly in the eastern provinces. There are 23 million Christians and 5 million Hindus.
Interesting.
And the Christmas customs in Indonesia, and this is interesting because it's kind of reflected in this movie, they're really to emphasize unity amongst all the religions and promote tolerance, unity, and acceptance. So I think the minority, like the Buddhist here, Tan, they all tried to say, we have these customs, we respect your religion. When we do these things, we want to show you that part of our traditions were also to promote tolerance so you tolerate us and respect us, and we do the same for you. So in Bali, there's a tradition called Nyat, where Catholics will cook and share food with their Hindu neighbors.
That's awesome.
And so they bring the food on Christmas Eve, and it's again to promote good relations. And this is where we see, I'm talking about different places in Indonesia. So then there's the province of Papua. After Christmas Mass, they do a communal feast. They dig out a big hole, they put stones in it, and it takes half a day, and they put pork and sweet potatoes and kale and papaya and all these ingredients into a big hole. The ritual is called Barapen, and it celebrates gratitude, unity, and the spirit of sharing. So bring the community again.
That's awesome.
I know. I want some, and it sounds really good with papaya and oh my goodness. So, and then in North Sumatra, the Tuba Batak people have a tradition called Marbinda, which you slaughter these animals before Christmas, and then Marhobis, the men get together and they cook and they distribute the meat through the community. And again, these ceremonies are supposed to promote togetherness, brotherhood, gratitude, and it is not separated by religion. It's shared with everyone. There's also a tradition on the island of Java. I love all the places that,
I know,
where Christmas meets the Javanese culture. And what happens is there's this very old art form called wayang, and it's puppetry. So they either use shadow puppets, rod puppets, mass figures, and it originated in Java. And a lot of times it was used to tell historical events and pass on history by these puppet shows. Well, in the 1960s, there was a priest, a Catholic brotherhood actually, that said, you know what? We could take this and use it to tell Bible stories. Right. And especially they really used it for Christmas. Right. They had a special one to tell the story of Jesus's birth, and they made these puppets out of embossed leather, and it's done through shadow puppetry, and it's part of their Christmas Mass where they'll put on this wayang performance. It's their way. They thought, again, we want to show that we can assimilate in your culture, right. We respect your culture, right. And we can be part of your culture. Two more quick ones I want to go. So I like this because we've seen it in other cultures. God, I wish we could adopt this here in the U.S. So this one is called Kunci Tayan, and it really means locking up the year. This is in the city of Manado. What they do is it starts in December and ends in January, but it begins, you go to church service, and this is right at the beginning of December. And from the service, you do a pilgrimage. Everyone leaves. They go to the cemetery where their graves of their relatives are, and they decorate the graves with lights and flowers. Then on Christmas Eve, they go back and they light the candles to illuminate the graves. And they'll also bring things. They'll bring food, like their family members' favorite foods. They leave cigarettes. They leave cakes. And then on the first Sunday in January, again, right around January 6th, they have a parade. And they wear costumes. Wow. And sometimes a lot of people dress like Santa Claus. And it's all part of the same thing. From you start, decorate the graves, then you light them up and bring the things they like. And in the end, you have a big parade.
A month-long community party.
Yeah.
That's
awesome. It is it. And then, of course, we can't get away without some food. We got to know Indonesian
What
food.
about the food, Bob?
What about the food? So most of their Christmas celebrations will include some kind of pork. Obviously, you can tell they're not Muslims because they're in pork,
Right.
but they call it babi, and it's served in various forms. So you have babi bula, which is pork and spices inside a bamboo stick. You have satay babi, which is skewered pork cooked over coconut husks and served with peanut sauce. And the must-have is babi putar or babi guling if you're on Bali. And that's a whole pig skewered and spit roasted over an open fire. And they'll have the big pig, and you'll have slices of meat, the crispy crackling skin, steamed rice, and dabu, which is fresh, fiery, hot chili paste.
Wow.
So
Spicy.
pork. Yeah, spicy pork.
Sounds delicious.
This calls for some Christmas music.
Yes, this Christmas music.
What kind of Christmas music is that?
The least you could do is play some Christmas music.
Now back to Christmas music.
You want to hear some Indonesian Christmas music?
Always want to hear music. I love my music.
Mari kita sambut sang raja, juru selamat umat manusia. Dialah Yesus anak Allah yang telah lahir ke dunia. Mari bersukacita menyambut kedatangannya dan nyanyikan selamat Natal. Habis November
So Mark, it was really hard to find an original Indonesian Christmas song. And I'll tell you, mainly because what they typically will sing covers of traditional English carols. And it's not that we have a hard time with that. That is fine. But that's kind of not what we're trying to find, some things that are more reflective of the area. So this song is by a local hip hop group there called MAC, or Music Anak Comment. And it's called Merry Christmas or Salamat Natal. The thing is, you can't find anything about the group.
Interesting.
All I can tell you is that it was released on December 16th, 2019. It's sung by this group. There are no articles, reviews, any bio information on them. What I can tell you is Mac has 11 different artists. We have F-Flow, we have Braid, Richie, Jana Uriel, Aldi, Hernim, Hello, Easy West, Dai Ochu, Young Fi, and Yao J.
Some of the coolest names ever.
If anything, yeah. Maybe they don't need a bio because they just have their cool monikers.
Yeah. Well, I like the song a lot.
Yeah, it was good.
Reggae kind of feel to it. Very cool.
It's trivia. Trivia.
All right. You ready for some Indonesian trivia?
Yep.
I'll tell you, all these countries, they got so many interesting details. I mean, they have such long histories. So they got this past that has amazing facts. We could seriously have a whole episode just talking about all their various facts. Like, think about this. We could tell you that Indonesia is the world's largest island nation. They have thousands and thousands of islands. So many islands that they have never really fully been able to count them. They've tried it a couple times and never finished. So we don't even know how many islands, but they got a lot of them. Or how about this? On the island of Java, it's the size of North Carolina.
Yep.
It has the population of half of the United States.
Oh my God.
All in a space the size of North Carolina. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is like, the brain can't really.
I know. Think about that.
that.
Can you imagine, you're touching people, but every time you walk
day.
outside.
Yeah.
And then there is a man-made structure there called the Gunung Padang, built 20,000 BC, before the end of the last ice age. This is one of the earliest man-made structures they've ever discovered. 22,000 years.
Wasn't Raquel Welch in the movie about that?
Yes, exactly. And then in 1816, this is fascinating. In 1816, Mount Tambora in Indonesia blew up, and it caused the International Year Without a Summer. It's marked down all over because of all the ash that went in the air.
Wow.
They had no summer. It was too cold. And so two things that we can attribute to the fact of that volcano eruption. One, the bad weather caused a crop failure in Vermont, which forced Joseph Smith to leave Vermont and head out west, which ultimately resulted in the Book of Mormon.
Wow.
And
that's a lot of dominoes falling to get there,
I
Bob.
know. And the rain in Switzerland was so bad that it forced Mary Shelley to stay indoors. And guess what? She wrote Frankenstein.
Amazing. All these are great trivia.
I know. So like
there's something even better than this.
Yeah. And then this one freaks me out too. They have a chicken in Indonesia that is all black. And you're like, okay, yeah, maybe that's
black
unique,
chicken,
but
yeah.
who cares? No, not only are its feathers and skin's black, but its muscles, its bones, and all of its internal organs black.
Wow.
Those are all good.
They are very
but
good.
we did thought we'd go back to another volcanic feature.
Okay.
They have a volcano in Indonesia that spews lava that is unusual. What is it about this lava that makes it unique? If you know, you will get one of our prize stickers, which you can use as we do. You can put it on your water bottle. You can put it on your bumper on your car, or you can use it as a template for a new tattoo.
You never know. Well,
I want Mark and Bob on your body, don't you?
You know what? I know we don't, but I think I know what the volcano spews. I mean, I don't want to ruin anything, but I think it's beer.
Knowing us, it should be beer. That Ulala beer or whatever.
I don't care. Maybe that's not right.
Well, speaking of beer, I think we ought to duck out the door and have some. But before we do, I'm going to leave you with a quote, Mark.
Okay, hit me.
This one's by the famous broadcaster, Eric Severide, who said, Christmas is a necessity. There has to be at least one day of the year to remind us that we're here for something else besides ourselves. Especially in a movie promoting brotherhood, traditions promoting brotherhood.
True.
I want you to make food and distribute it to any of your Hindu neighbors this Christmas.
On it.
Mark, it's always good.
It's always fun, Bob.
Yeah. Well, let's go out and share like some Kentucky fried black chicken.
That's really troubling. That's really, really troubling. I need to go now.
Actually, we're done. Done.
It's over. It's over.
It's over, kaput, finito.
It's over. It's over. It's over.
This has been a Way Sound Studio production.
And sound engineering on our show is by Jake Fontana.